A parable is a simple story to illustrate a meaning that the author or the teller wants to get across. And Jesus used parables in his ministry to let people know who he was and what his mission was. But these parables weren't told to make things clear and obvious. No. Jesus told parables to provoke the imagination. And you could only really understand these parables if you listened carefully. If you really wanted to understand what Jesus was getting across, what he was trying to say, you had to stop, pause, and open up your imagination. You see, it was through parables that Jesus was able to make bold claims about himself and make bold claims about the sinful world that he was in. But he told them in such a way that you wouldn't be able to know what he was saying unless you opened up your imagination, unless you explored the meanings behind them. Jesus' parables tell us of the surprises of God's kingdom, the upside down values of God's kingdom, and a decision required that is need to be made by me and you. The parables of Jesus are small and beautiful stories waiting to be read and explored. The parables of Jesus are like rooms full of treasure, and all that we need to do, me and you, is to open up the door and open up our imagination. Every Christmas, since I can remember, it has been a running joke between me and my brother about who has the most presents and who has the biggest presents. Every year since I can remember, we would run into the front room where my mum and dad set up our Christmas morning, and we would count our presents and compare the sizes. And then afterwards, we would then wind up our mum and dad about who was the favourite that year. Until one Christmas, my brother brought home his girlfriend Katie, now fiancée. And for 7 years now, it has been made very clear who is the favourite. No longer is it Ross versus Ryan. For 7 years now, it has been Ross and Ryan versus Katie. It has been made clear that she is the favourite. Katie has come into our family and she is now one of us. And my parents celebrate her. And my parents are making up for all those years we haven't had her at Christmas. So we're going to read Luke 15, 11 to 32. To illustrate the point further, Jesus told him this story. A man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, "I want my share of your estate now before you die." So his father agreed to divide his wealth between his sons. A few days later, this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land, and there he wasted all his money in wild living. About the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. The young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him, but no one gave him anything. When he finally came into his senses, he said to himself, "At home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, and here I am dying of hunger. I will go home to my father and say, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant.' So he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and I am no longer worthy of being called your son.' But his father said to the servants, 'Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet, and kill the calf we have been fattening. We must celebrate with a feast, for his son of mine was dead and was now returned to life. He was lost, but now is found.' So the party began. Meanwhile, the older son was in the fields working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. 'Your brother is back,' he was told, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return.' The older brother was hungry and wouldn't go in. His father came out and begged him, but he replied, 'All these years I've slaved for you and never once refused to do a single thing for you, and all the things you told me to do. And in all that time, you never gave me one goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours comes back after squandering all your money on prostitutes, you celebrate him by killing the fattened calf.' His father said to him, 'Look, dear son, you have always stayed by me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day, for your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost, but now he is found." So what is this parable called? Say it after me. 1, 2, 3. The parable of the prodigal son. And that is true. It is a beautiful story of a son that went away, disowned his family, and came crawling back after he lost everything. But I wonder if you ever heard it called this, the parable of the forgiving father. Which is true. It is a beautiful story of a father giving away his inheritance early to his youngest son, who then squanders it on wild living, only to come crawling back and be forgiven and embraced by the father again. And I wonder if we call this parable, the parable of the forgiven father. The attention goes away from the son and on to the father. You see, in this story, the father represents God. The son represents sinners like us, and the elder son represents those that are self-righteous. And the whole theme of this story is twofold. You can find two things that this story is about, that Jesus is trying to get across, and it is these two things: human repentance and God's forgiveness. The youngest son thought he would be better off without his father, so demands his inheritance. The younger son thought he would be better off outside the camp community. He thought he would have more fun. He thought he would have more freedom away from his father and community. The son was free to do whatever he liked. The father did not restrict what the son wanted to do. But with freedom comes the wilderness. The younger son scattered his inheritance on wild living, parties, getting drunk, sleeping around, gambling, and suddenly it was all gone. All the fun that he hoped to have, all the freedom he had hoped to have, has suddenly disappeared. So he took the ultimate humiliating job and began working with the pigs. And he became so hungry that he desired to eat the pig's food, the pig slop that he was feeding the pigs. So he decided to go back to his father, ready to apologise, ready to admit that he was wrong, ready to be punished, shunned and rejected by his father. And as he shuffles over the hill, with his head down, facing the floor, his father sees him in the distance, and he breaks all Jewish protocol and runs to his son. With arms open wide, he embraces him with a hug and a kiss. This is the upside down kingdom. The father shouts for the fattened calf to be prepared, and this calf was reserved only for super special occasions, and the father deemed this occasion to be that special. A party erupts. The son has returned. And the story continues, and the older brother returns from the fields and see that there's a party going on, and the party is in full swing. And the older brother finds out what is going on, and he is furious. So furious, in fact, that he doesn't even bother going towards the party, and the father has to come out to him. And he gives the father a rant. He rants at the father. "I have worked day and night. I have worked and worked and worked, and I've done everything that you have told me to do. And not once have you bought me a McDonald's. Except your son comes home after he squanders all your money on prostitutes, and you buy him the whole menu on Domino's, and it's not even 2 for 1 Tuesday." And the father listens to the outburst and replies, "I'm sorry, son, but you have everything that is mine. But your little brother, he was lost, but now he is found. Your little brother was dead, but now he is alive." Me and my brother, we continue to complain and joke with our parents that Katie is the favourite. But me and Ryan have everything that our parents own. Katie was once not part of our family, but now is. And my parents celebrate that and are making up for the years we haven't had her. And me and my brother have learned to embrace that. And we enjoy celebrating Katie as well. But regarding the parable, that's where it ends. The insider older brother is now on the outside of the community, and the outsider younger brother is now on the inside of the community. This is the upside down kingdom.